Another episode of BizJet TV. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Top Gun, about Tom Cruise and his involvement with private jets. So a bit of a different episode today, but lots of you have been asking me about the movie Top Gun, what my thoughts on it. So I'll just give you, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, Tom Cruise and his flying and that, what I think of the movie, the aerial stunts and that. So let's get into today's episode. If you haven't subscribed to BizJet TV, lots about business aviation on this channel, over 400 videos. And let's get straight into the meat of today's episode. So the movie Top Gun is quite a movie that's close to my heart because I actually went to see the first Top Gun movie on the 18th of July 1986, which for me is an important date because it's the day, 17 years old, I flew solo for the first time in a Cessna 152. And my buddies at the flight school, I was the youngest student at the flight school, they decided to treat me that evening and they took me to the cinema to see the movie Top Gun. Now, great movie. I love that movie. I must have seen it 20 times. And when I heard the sequel was coming out, I was really curious. I read a few reviews out there. People were saying that the sequel was actually better to the first movie. And I went and saw it yesterday. And I must say, yeah, I agree 100%. The sequel is miles better than the first movie. Between the plot, the characters, the aerial stunts. Really, really great movie. I like the way it ended. Also, not going to reveal, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, I do encourage you to see it. Now, a lot of training went in to doing the movie. Tom Cruise was trained in the aircraft, so were a number of the other actors were all, filming inside the aircraft, so they went through a lot of training to be able to do that. The Navy did not allow Tom Cruise to fly the F-18 because they only allowed Navy pilots to do that, but all the actors were actually physically in the airplane, so all the footage you see is real. Also, the storyline is very realistic as well. I mean, the type of mission. But there is something which is kind of dropped in the movie. It's interesting where in the beginning he's test flying this airplane that's supposed to go Mach 9. And so he's become a test pilot after 35 years after the first movie. And at a certain point, an admiral says to him, he says, well, the future of military aircraft is unmanned. And now, if you think about it, for an aircraft with a man in it, you've got problems where they need to go to the bathroom every so many hours. They have to breathe. They, pull G's, so you can't pull too many G's, or the man in the airplane will pass out, or the woman. These are disadvantages you have when you're flying an airplane with a man on board. So I think a lot of military flying will end up being done either piloted remotely or flown by AI. And this will probably come into civilian aviation later on. And this is a point that the movie does touch on, which I thought was really, really interesting. But Tom Cruise, he flies, he trains these pilots in the movie. His character Maverick, really, really enjoyed it. But let's talk about Tom Cruise now. Now, Tom Cruise film, Top Gun was back in 85, 86. He then fell in love with flying and in 1994 started training to become a pilot himself. Today he's a commercial pilot, multi-engine rated. He's also got instrument rating. He's also qualified to fly helicopters. And a lot of the stunts that he does in the movie Mission Impossible, for example, he's actually flying the helicopter. In the movie Top Gun Maverick, he's flying the P-51, which is actually his own aeroplane. And he flies that towards the end of the movie. But you may have seen the video here on YouTube, and I'll put the link up here, when Tom Cruise flew James Corden around in the P-51 and then flew him in the L-39 Albatross, which is another airplane that Tom Cruise flies and owns. He also owns a Honda jet and he owns a Gulfstream G4. Now, I don't know if he flies the G4. I do know he flies the Honda jet, the L-39 and the P-51 Mustang. He flies all these aircraft. He also flies the helicopters. So he is actually a real pilot. And he's actually been trained very well and puts himself through a lot of training so that, he is safe. It's a hobby. It's something that he's always liked. A bit like John Travolta. Both these actors have always said, I wanted to be an actor, but I also wanted to fly airplanes. And so they're very similar in the fact that they both fly their own airplanes. And that's what they do as a hobby. And Tom Cruise managed to do some of his flying in the new movie. So overall, that's and Tom Cruise uses private jets, of course, for flying himself around, as well as being a hobby. So he's a pilot owner, uses it for business, like John Travolta as well, and other business people out there. But, as I always say, if you do approach flying from a perspective where you are a business owner, you're a celebrity or whatever you may be, you're not a professional pilot, you have to go about it professionally because, too many people kill themselves with airplanes these days. This thing goes up in the air, and if something goes wrong up there, you have to know what you're doing, and that's really, really important. They also move fast through the air, so you've got to have quick thinking. You've got to have the right type of training. That's really, really important. So if you're watching this thinking about buying your own plane and flying it yourself, you've got to go about it in a certain way and be trained in a certain way as well. So let's hear your comments. And have you seen the movie Top Gun? What did you think? Did you enjoy the movie? What's your take? Have you maybe a pilot? Any criticism you may have of the movie? I thought it was great. And if you haven't seen this next video about the Global 8000, check this one out. Interesting airplane, and also this other video here on the Falcon 6X, both 2 new aircraft coming on the market. And again, I can only give out information on Bizjet TV. It's general information. If you want to be specific, I encourage you to reach out and we can jump on a free Zoom call. First call's free, and I can tell you and find out more about you and give you a recommendation on which is the right airplane for you, and whether you need to start chartering, leasing, or buying, or fraction ownership, whatever it may be. And so again, check these 2 videos out, one on the Falcon 6X and one on the Global 8000. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli on Bizjet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.